We're continuing our series on practicing the way, and we're going to talk about Sabbath. But I want to ask a question first. How many of you today are feeling very rested? Woo, that was a lot of hands. Bill, I'm a little jealous. You didn't even think about hitting the snooze button. Megan couldn't hear the alarm going off this morning. I had to let her know that it was been going off for about 2 minutes. Maybe you didn't see yourself dragging your feet out of bed, dreaming of that blessed afternoon nap. Oh, okay. Or maybe you're like most of us and you are struggling to hide your yawns because you feel exhausted, even after you slept. It's only 11:15, and many of us already feel drained. Chances are, most of us do not feel rested enough. Part of it is because of the society that we live in. It's a society that doesn't know how to slow down. I see Matt over here yawning as is. Hey, dude, it's okay. I'm with you. Before 1910, the average amount of sleep a person would get was over 9 hours. 9 hours a night. I know. By the mid-1900s, this has dropped to between 6 and 8 hours, and now it is consistently less than 7 hours. That's a lot of lack of sleep. We are a society that does not know how to stop and rest. And honestly, one reason is that we are constantly connected to information. You get your emails from work or all the spam mail and everything else. You get text messages constantly from your friends and family, for coworkers. We have notifications from Instagram, Facebook, and a slew of other apps. We have all of the news of the world in our back pocket and at our fingertip. We can know what is happening in China, in Iran, in South America, at the click of a button. All of this information is taking up needless space in our heads. It is non-stop information overload. You see, our culture values information, but it also values productivity. Elon Musk once claimed to work 120 hours a week. And he made the comment that only way to change the world is that if we would at least work 80 hours a week. That you can't change the world on a 40-hour work week. Yet this has been proven false over and over and over again. But the idea still remains. In many cases, one's very identity is wrapped up in their productivity. If I don't make quota, I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. If I don't get this many contacts, I fail. This desire leads us to be driven to think about the next thing on our agenda. We can't just pause and be in the moment. We're constantly thinking 3 steps ahead. We're adding more activities to our schedule, whether that's for work, family obligations, friends. But at the end of the week, we are an exhausted society. Yet God planned for this. God knew that this would be our natural bend. So he modeled a simple solution to battle the overloaded exhaustion. He called it Sabbath. In Hebrew, the word is Shabbat. It literally means to rest, to cease, to stop. We first see this concept of Shabbat in Genesis 2, 1 through 3. So the creation of the heavens and earth and everything in them was completed. On the 7th day, God had finished his work of creation, so he rested from all his work. And God blessed the 7th day and declared it holy, because it was the day when he rested from all his creation, all of his work of creation. You see, God gave us an example of how to rest after a full week of work. To stop, cease, and simply rest from a job well done. Yet the modern church often shies away from the idea of Sabbath. Many of us in the church feel that it's part of the old covenant and not necessary for our spiritual walk today. And yes, Shabbat, or Sabbath, was established in the old covenant. That is true. But it doesn't mean it's any less valuable for you and I. It was a part of God's first covenant with the children of Abraham. In fact, it is the third of the 10 Commandments. We read in Exodus 20, 8 through 11, God commands us, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week by your ordinary work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Sabbath was a commandment for the ancient Israelites. A day set aside to rest and to recharge their batteries. 6 days of the week they worked the land. 6 days a week they fished. They built furniture. They baked bread. They went about their daily lives, scratching out a living. But 1 day a week, one day was called to be set aside for a different purpose. It was to be a holy day, a holiday. A special day devoted to taking a break, to simply stopping. Yet, in the New Testament, we see Jesus himself breaking the Sabbath. It's a big deal to the Israelites when he goes and he heals the man that was lame on the Sabbath day. Later on, we see him and his disciples as they're walking along a field, picking kernels of wheat and eating them. And those religious leaders were upset, accusing Jesus of breaking the Sabbath. But the question is, did he really break God's Sabbath? No. What Jesus broke was not God's command of Sabbath. Rather, he broke the religious leaders' extra rules about Sabbath. You see, they were so scared that they would mess up, that someone would accidentally break God's command, that they put these strong boundaries around what Sabbath should look like. They built these safeguards, these boundaries for our protection. These extra rules, though, took God's command for our benefit and made it a legalistic series of do's and don'ts. Many of these rules were ridiculous, including you could not start a fire after sundown on Sabbath, even if you were shivering, because that would be work. You should have got that kindling, done before sunset. You could not bake bread for your family on Sabbath, even if their stomachs were growling. Sorry, that was work. You could not walk more than 2,000 cubits, or about 3/5 of a mile on Sabbath, because that would be work. This is not what God had in mind when he said rest. In fact, Jesus himself addresses this by explaining what the purpose of Sabbath really is. And he does this in Mark 2, 27 and 28. Then Jesus said to them, "The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people, and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath." Sabbath was to meet our need for rest. Our bodies need it. Our minds crave it. Our spirit desires it. It's not another spiritual practice that we just check off. Well, I read my Bible today, check. I Sabbath today, check. I prayed 3 times a day, check. That's not what the purpose is. Rather, it is allow us to set aside the worries of the week, all of the stuff that drags us down, that we're so focused on. For one day, we can set it aside. One day, we can find peace. To take a spiritual breath and just relax. To slow down from that mad dash of the work week. Sabbath is not a requirement, but it is highly recommended. Jesus practiced Sabbath not because the religious demanded it, but because his body, his mind, and his human spirit, all of that human stuff of him, demanded it. His humanity needed it. Jesus would go off and rest to recharge his spiritual batteries. He would go up to the mountain to pray and to worship. He would take time to rest from his mission by leaving the crowds, giving some space to refocus. He would celebrate Sabbath in community with his followers and friends. A study was done on Seventh-day Adventists. This is a group, a religious movement that upholds the Sabbath religiously. And so every Saturday, the community of Seventh-day Adventists, they hold strong to the Sabbath. But a study found that on average, adherents to this religion live about 11 years longer than in the general population. One person added up 11 years worth of days and then turned around and figured out over a whole lifetime how many days that would be. And it comes up to every day of Sabbath that they would have in a whole lifetime. So each day of rest is a day added on to their life at the end. God knew that we needed rest. But what does this Sabbath idea really look like? Traditionally, the ancient Israelites would start Sabbath at sundown on Friday. Their day was different than ours. They didn't start at midnight. They started at sundown. It would start with a meal, often in community with their friends and their family. And they would sit around and they would discuss their week. They would laugh at each other's funny stories. They would lift up one another when failures were remembered. And they were reminding one another that none of them are alone, that we are a community and we are together. They would fellowship with one another, praying for one another and living life together, including resting alongside one another. Then the next morning, Saturday would be a day where they would enjoy themselves. Maybe they would set a time for a nap. They would read scripture together. They might sing songs, play games, or go sit in nature. And then Sabbath would end with another meal at sundown. They Sabbathed. They rested. They stopped. They delighted. They worshiped. That is what Sabbath was. And this is what we can also experience. We will look at each of these ideas over the next several weeks. We're looking at rest today, but we're going to look at the idea of stopping, of delighting, and of worshiping. Because that is all how the word Sabbath can be translated. You see, Sabbath is our opportunity to realign our will with our Creator. Tim Keller stated, "To practice Sabbath is a disciplined and faithful way to remember that you are not the one who keeps the world running, who provides for your family, not even the one who keeps your work projects moving forward." Sabbath is a time for us to remember who is really in control, to slow down, and to place ourselves back in the proper hierarchy of the universe. If I take a day off, the project will not implode because God is the one that is over it. If I rest one day and don't check my emails, the world will continue to move forward. It's not the end because I'm not the one in control. Sabbath is a disciplined practice that we can implement to help us to reset before the new week begins. Because the Sabbath is created for you and I. So what would a Sabbath look like for you? Some choose to Sabbath on the traditional Friday night and Saturday. They will feast Friday night and enjoy the company of their loved ones. Then Saturday, they do not have obligations. They simply relax. Maybe they read a book, or they go for a walk in the woods. They play that game. They take a nap. Listen to worship music. Whatever you choose to do besides the normal obligations of the other 6 days. And then it ends with another meal on Saturday evening. But many in the church over the last 2,000 years move Sabbath to the beginning of the week. As we celebrate Sunday, the idea of the empty tomb, they would start with a meal on Saturday night, and then they would attend church and rest afterwards. Meg and I have begun to add Sabbath into our own lives. Like this, we choose to start Saturday evening, and it continues through Sunday. For us, church worship is not work or an obligation, but rather it's part of our recharging. We enjoy being here with our family. We often will rest in the afternoon, we'll play board games, watch a show, and we try not to do unnecessary work. And I'll tell you, it has been very beneficial for us when we do it. It is a moment of peace in the chaos of life. And I will admit, we're not great at it yet. We are a work in progress. To be honest, maybe 24 hours seems unachievable at this time. You can't even imagine setting apart 24 hours yet, and that's okay. I challenge you, find 2 hours. Set aside 4 hours. Set aside a little bit of time and rest this week. Rest from your obligations. Allow it to recharge your batteries. Turn off your phones. And just rest. Allow it to realign your focus. To place back into what really matters. I'm not in control, but I serve the one who is. Remind you that God and God alone is in control. And when we think about that, we can stop thinking about a lot of things. We can set that aside. You see, we have to remember, Sabbath was made to meet the needs of you and I. Sabbath was made to give us rest. To rest our bodies, to rest our minds, and to rest our hearts. I ask you guys to join with me in Sabbathing for our spiritual practices, because we all need some rest. My name is Shaun Courtney. I'm the pastor at Connection Point Church, and I would like to offer you a big welcome to come join us on Sunday mornings for Sunday school at 9 o'clock. We have adult Sunday schools, we have children and youth Sunday school classes available. Then following that, we have worship where we will sing praises, pray for one another, and listen to Bible study. Encourage you, that starts at 10:15. We are at 700 Sycamore Street in Monette, Missouri. Also on Wednesday nights, we have more small groups following a meal that starts at 5:30. We have men's group, women's group, single moms, children, and youth. Encourage you guys to come and join us. We believe it's very important to be actively involved in the body of Christ, because here, you're family.